Try with my.
Look, it's not loading.
Password. It's going live.
Huh?
It's going live. I can see the message.
Yeah,
YouTube is live.
YouTube is live, but what about Facebook? Fix Facebook. Quickly. Nothing's happening now. Hare Krishna. Facebook's not doing anything. It's just saying loading. Hare Krishna on YouTube. I think just take that off. No, it's probably low. Some technical issue today. See if you can get Facebook working. So, Hare Krishna on YouTube. Facebook is just being technically fixed. And we'll see how we go with this. We don't have Wi-Fi at the moment. It seems that someone is there. Okay, so we're trying to go live, but the whole atmosphere here is surcharged with excitement for tomorrow, Gaur Pranim. Today we had Holi locally, and all the residents become very joyful because somehow or other it's understood that tomorrow is our special day that we've been waiting for. So today we're going to Jhanudvipa and Modrumdvipa. So we'll have a short kirtan and then we'll travel to those last 2 islands and then we will have completed our 9 islands. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Shri Mad Bhakti Vedanta Narayanuti Namine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Gaura Prasthaya Bhutale Shri Shri Mad Bhakti Pragyana Keshaviti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai. Jaya Sachinandan, Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachinandan, Jaya Gaura Hari,
Jaya Sachinandan, Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachinandan, Jaya Gaura Hari.
Jaya Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda Radhe, Radha Govinda, Radha Govinda Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Oh Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jai Shri Shri Guru Garanga Ganhava Giridhari Radha Govinda Ju Ki Jai, Jai Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai, Sachinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Paramahamsa Mahabhagavat Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Saptam Goswami Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai, Jai Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Jai Srila Baladevi Dibhushan Gaudi Bharantaracharya Ki Jai, Jai Srila Vishnath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai, Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Traya Ki Jai, Jai Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai, Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Shri Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sat Goswami Prabhu's Ki Jai, Arupa Nuga Guru Varga Ki Jai, Jai Swarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Gauda Parasada Ki Jai. Namacharya Shrilahardas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Siga Holsi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Ananta Gauda Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Om Agina Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Gurave Gaura Chandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shnapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kathamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Priya Surupe, Daita Surupe, Prema Surupe, Sahajaga Rupe, Nijana Rupe, Prabhueka Rupe, Tatana Rupe, Swagala Surupe, Anapita Chirim Chirat Kuranavartino Kalo Samarat Paitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Svabhakti Shriam Hari Purata Sundarata Tikatam Basitapita Sada Hridare Kandare Spadatu Vasachinandanaha Yam Prabhajantamanapetyam apeti krityam dvaipaino viraha katara ajuhava putre titam mayatayottara vinidustam sarvabhutam hridimunimanatoshmi bhaktya vihina aparada lakshay shiptascha karmadi tarangamadye kripa mayitvam sharanam prapana brinde namaste charanarvindam bhajami radham aravindanetram Smarami radham madhurashmitasyam Vadami radham karuna baradram Tato mamanasti katyena kapi Tavaivasmi najivami tvaivina Iti vignaya radhe tvam naimam charantikam. I first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my beloved Gurudev Nityalila Pravishta Om Astotar Zadashi Shimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again millions of times unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nityalila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazarashi Shimad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada and all our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Varga and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So it seems like our Facebook link is not working. Why not?
YouTube is working.
Why is Facebook not working?
I don't know. I'm trying to connect through my mobile internet.
Well, don't worry about your mobile. Just
But
give
still,
it.
it's not working.
Give it to me. Day 6. Oh, it's not loading. So it seems like Facebook doesn't want to play with us today, so we'll just play with YouTube instead. So I hope you can all hear me clearly enough, and it's streaming sufficiently. Very interesting how we are absolutely not in control of these things. So today we're going to Jhanudvipa. In Jhanudvipa is the great sage Jhanu Rishi. Has his ashram today. Jhanu Rishi is one of the Sapta Rishis, one of the 7 great rishis of this universe. And in Treta Yuga, back in Treta Yuga, there was a great king called Bahuka, and he's in the line, the Rohini line, coming from Vaibhashvatu Manu. Originally, this line is coming from the Sun dynasty, from Vivishvan, coming down through Vaibhashvatu Manu, and comes ultimately to Bahuka, this king we're talking about now. And he left for the forest to perform bhajan before his departure from this world, and he took his wives with him. And when he left his body, his principal queen, his first wife, she wanted to perform sati, the climbing into the funeral fire along with her husband. But then the great sage Aurava, he appeared and said no, she could not go into the fire because she was bearing a child in her womb. She was pregnant. So he ordered her not to perform that sati ceremony. So she remained. But her co-wives became envious of her position, having the heir to the throne within her womb. So they also had children. So they wanted their children, of course, to be the king. So they tried to poison the child. And somehow, miraculously, the child wasn't poisoned. So the child's name was given Sagar. Gar means poison, and Sa means with. So even in the womb, he was poisoned, but he was able to be saved from that poison. So Sagar was a mighty king, and he would perform many sacrifices in Treta Yuga under the guidance of Aurava, this great sage. And at one point, they were performing the Rajasuya sacrifice, or the Ashvamedha sacrifice. And the sacrificial horse was arranged and went out into the countryside, followed by the 60,000 sons of Sagar Rishi. Sagar Rishi had two wives. His first wife was Sumati, and his second wife was Keshini. His first wife, Sumati, had 60,000 sons. So this is in Treta Yuga, where they would have those sort of amounts of offspring. Keshini had one son, Asamanjasaha. So the 60,000 sons, they were following the horse. And then the horse disappeared. Actually, Indra had come again and stolen the sacrificial horse. Indra is always insecure about his position as the king of heaven, king of Swaga. So anyone performing Ashvamedha sacrifices, because it's described that 100 Ashvamedha sacrifices qualifies one for the post of Indra. So Indra stole that sacrificial horse again. And the 60,000 sons were looking frantically for it for a long, long time. In fact, they dug up a whole part of the earth looking for it, which today is called the Sagar Ocean. So they couldn't find that horse. And eventually, they came into the ashram of Kapila Muni, was meditating, and they saw the horse quietly grazing beside that great sage. And they immediately thought that the sage had deliberately stolen the sacrificial horse. So they became angry and they attacked Kapila Rishi. Of course, Kapila Rishi is a manifestation of the Supreme Lord himself. And it's described very clearly that the heat from their own bodies of the 60,000 sons of Sagar incinerated them. So each son died, was incinerated by the heat of his own anger at that time, in that spot, at the ashram of Kapila Dev. So then when the King Sagar was not receiving any word from his 60,000 sons and the horse hadn't been returned, then he sent out his grandson. His grandson is Ansuman. His son, Amanjasaha, was like a yogi, was completely detached from everything material and just retired to the forest very early. But Asamanjasa, he had a son before he renounced and went to the forest, called Ansuman. So Ansuman was the grandson of Sagar, King Sagar. So Ansuman came searching for the horse and his uncles, 60,000 uncles. And eventually he came to the ashram of Kapila Dev and he saw the horse there. And he also saw 60,000 small mounds of incinerated remnants from his uncles. And he assumed the truth at that time. He could see that these were his uncles who had been incinerated. So Ansuman was very, very respectful to the sage Kapiladev, and he offered many prayers to Kapiladev, and he inquired about his uncles, his 60,000 uncles, and Kapiladev explained what had actually happened, and explained that the horse had been left there by Indra and that Ansuman should take the horse. But before Ansuman left that ashram, again he offered prayers, and he inquired to Kapila Rishi, how can I liberate my uncles from this death of being incinerated by the heat of their own anger? And Kapila Rishi, he explained, if you can bring Mother Ganga here, then that will liberate your uncles. They'll all be liberated by the touch of the waters of the powerful Ganga river. So Ansuman, he returned with the sacrificial horse back to King Saga. King Saga tried a little bit to invoke Mother Ganga to come to the planet, but he didn't have the time left in his life to perform sufficient long austerities. Then Ansuman, he took up that task, but he also wasn't able to invoke Mother Ganga to come. He started at a later age also. And the son of Ansuman is called Dilip. And Dilip also tried to petition Mother Ganga to come to the earth, but he failed. But the son of Dilip is called Bhagirat. And Bhagirat started at a very early age to petition Ganga Devi to come to this earthly planet and perform very beautiful, intense austerities. And eventually, Ganga Devi, she appeared before him, and she heard his request to come to the earth, but she said, who will sustain the force in the earth when I land? I've come from the Swagaloka, from the celestial worlds, and the force of my waters will just plummet the earth planet into the Garbhodak ocean. So who will catch the force of my waters? And then Bhagirat, he requested that Shivji will do this, and Ganga Devi agreed. And then Ganga Devi also asked, and who will purify my waters when so many sinful people leave their sins in the waters? My waters will become choked with the sins. And then Bhagirat replied that the saintly persons who bathe in your divine waters, they will purify those sinful reactions that are left there. So Ganga Devi was satisfied with this. And then again, Bhagirat performed many austerities to petition Shivji to come into the world. And then Shivji came, and Shivji agreed to this task. And he sat underneath Mother Ganga as she descended with great, great force into his dreadlocks. And when she came into his dreadlocks, Shivji, he plays with her, it's described, in his dreadlocks. He keeps her within his dreadlocks for some time. This is why we always see the Ganga within the locks of Lord Shivji. And then Ganga Devi, she divides into 4 directions. And the western direction comes down into Bharatvash. The other directions go into the other worlds. And she comes in at Gomati, and she comes through Kashi, etc., and she comes down. And Bhagirat, he is riding his chariot furiously in front to guide Mother Ganga towards the Kapila ashram, where he wants to liberate his 60,000 uncles, or grand uncles. And he's driving very forcefully. But when Ganga Mata comes into the land of Navadvip, she becomes so ecstatic to be in this land of Navadvip. She knows through her potency that this is the land where Sachinandan Gaur Hari is going to advent. Mahaprabhu will advent at this time. And she becomes ecstatic to be in that land of Navadvip. And she starts frolicking. And she starts twisting much more. She slows right down because she wants to spend time in Navadvip Dham. She doesn't want to rush through like she has the other provinces. So she has huge bends in her waters now when she comes into Navadvip Dham. And then she's still frolicking. And then when she comes to the ashram of Jhanurishi is already in the ashram in Navadvip, and he's in Jhanudvip, where we are today, and he's meditating on that Supreme Lord. And when Ganga Devi comes past his ashram in a very jubilant mood, she sweeps away even his Achaman cup. She takes away practically his whole ashram. And Jhanurishi jumps out of his meditation, and in his spontaneous action, he just reaches down with his palm and drinks the whole of Mother Ganga into his abdomen. Jhanurishi is a great, great saintly personality, like Augusta Rishi, who swallowed the whole ocean. So Jhanurishi, he swallows that whole Ganga like this. So Bhagirath is steaming ahead on his chariot, and then he realizes that Ganga Devi is not following me. So he backtracks and comes to the ashram of Jhanurishi. And then he petitions Jhanurishi with very beautiful prayers. He realizes Jhanurishi must have somehow or other checked the flow of Mother Ganga. So he petitions Jhanurishi with many prayers. And Jhanurishi hears his prayers, and then he agrees to release Mother Ganga to continue her journey, to liberate the 60,000 great-great-uncles of Bhagirath. But he doesn't want to spit her out as he took her in his mouth, because that would be contaminating if he spat her out. So he cuts his thigh. It's described in different scriptures. Some say his ear, some say his thighs. He cuts his thigh or his ear. But in either way, Ganga Mata, she streams out of the body of Jhanurishi. Therefore, Ganga Mata becomes called Jhanavi, the daughter of Jhanurishi. So then Ganga Mata makes her way to the ashram of Kapila Dev and liberates the 60,000 sons. And then later on, there's a very beautiful pastime continuing this pastime where the son of Shantanu Maharaj and Ganga Mata, later on, this is just in Dwapara Yuga now, we've come in Dwapara Yuga, and previously in Swagaloka, there was a great meeting of all the masters of the universe were called to Lord Brahma. And in that meeting, there was one personality called Mahavishwas. Mahavishwas came to that meeting, and Agni Dev was there, Surya Dev was there, Chandra was there, all the great personalities were there. And then Ganga Devi, she comes into that assembly. And when she comes in, the wind blows her dupatta off her head. And all those dharmic personalities, masters, they all immediately look down, except Mahavishwas. Mahavishwas, he keeps looking at Ganga Devi, and Ganga Devi looks back at him. They're attracted to each other. And Lord Brahma, he sees this, so he curses them both to immediately take birth in planet Earth. So Mahavishwas, he eventually becomes Shantanu, the emperor of the world, Shantanu. And Ganga Devi, before she leaves to take her birth in this planet, then the Vasus, the 8 Vasus, who have stolen the Kamandenu cow from Vashishta Rishi, they approach Ganga Mata and say, "Oh, you please let us take birth from your womb, and you please kill us straight away so we can be reinstated back," because they've been cursed by Vashishta Rishi. Vashishta Rishi owned the Kamandelu cow, and the Vasus, they stole that cow. And Vashishta Rishi curses the Vasus to take birth on earth. So the Vasus petition Ganga Mata, "You please let us come birth from your womb, and please kill us straight away so we can come back to our position." So Ganga Mata agrees. Ganga Devi and the Vasus have a friendship from previous history. So Ganga Devi, she does like that. So when the marriage takes place between Ganga Devi and Vishvasa, he becomes Shantanu Maharaj. So Shantanu marries Ganga Devi, and Ganga Devi makes the condition in their marriage that if ever you try to check me in my activities, at that time I'll leave you. There must be no discord between us at all. If there's any argument or you ever try to question my actions, then I'm going to leave. So the first child is born from Ganga Devi, and she comes to Mother Ganga and she submerges the child in the Ganga, and the child leaves its body. And Shantanu is just horrified, but he doesn't want to say anything because he's very, very attached to Ganga Mata. And then the second child, third child, fourth child, fifth child, sixth child, seventh child. And finally on the seventh child, Shantanu can't restrain himself anymore. He says, "You evil woman, what are you doing, killing all my sons like this? Why are you doing like this?" He just explodes in anger with her. And she says, "Right, now you've broken your vow. Now I have to leave you. Now I will leave you. But I'll take this eighth son with me. I won't kill this eighth son. I'll take this eighth." So she takes the eighth son with her. And then Maharaj Shantanu is very completely morose and despondent for many years. And then one day, Shantanu Maharaj, he's walking up the Ganga, and he sees, to his amazement, that the waters have stopped flowing. And he walks up further and he sees a dam has been made by arrows, checking the whole Ganga. And he sees a young youth, a 16-year-old boy with a bow, who has actually done this miraculous act and dammed up the whole Ganga. And eventually they begin to exchange and talk, and Shantanu realized, this is my son, actually, who has done this remarkable feat. He's been trained by his mother in the Dhanurved, and all the arts of Kshatriya warriorship being trained very nicely by Ganga Devi. So then his name is Devavrata at that time, and he becomes attached with his father Shantanu. He takes him back to his palace, and he remains in the palace, and we know that this becomes into the Mahabharata story, where eventually Satyavati is procured from the fisherman's village, and Devavrata takes that vow of lifelong celibacy to satisfy the father of Satyavati, because Shantanu falls in love with the daughter of the fisherman, who's very beautiful and has a very angelic fragrance about her, because she's being blessed by the Parshara Rishi to have a fragrance on her body instead of the fish smell that she had previously. So the father, the king of the fishermen, is telling Bhishma Dev, because he's come to solicit the king of the fishermen to have his daughter marry Shantanu. And the king of the fishermen says, "My daughter will marry Shantanu so long as her sons become the king after Shantanu leaves this world." And then Bhishma Dev agrees, yes, of course. And then the king of the fishermen says, "And your sons also," because Devavrata is also the son of Shantanu. If he has sons, then his sons are going to be the king, rather than the sons of the fisherman's daughter, Satyavati. So at that time, Devavrata, he takes this vow. For a Kshatriya warrior, this is an incredible vow of lifelong celibacy. He takes that vow of lifelong celibacy to satisfy the king of the fishermen, so he can take the daughter Satyavati back to his father, Shantanu Maharaj, for marriage. And at that time, all the devas, they all shower flowers and say Bhishma, 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 which is honoring him for making such a great vow. So this is Bhishma Dev. So Bhishma Dev is actually the son of Ganga Devi. And Bhishma Dev, he comes to this place of Jhanudvipa, seeking his maternal grandfather, who is Jhanu Rishi. Jhanu Rishi is his maternal grandfather, because Jhanu Rishi has been born from his thigh or his ear. So he's the grandfather of, he's the father of Ganga Mata. So he comes to Jhanu Rishi's ashram and offers very beautiful prayers and Janu Rishi becomes very pleased with him. This personality, Bhishma Dev, is a great, great personality, as we read about in the Bhagavatam. And at that time, Janu Rishi, he bestows so much wealth of knowledge, of rulership in the world, of Varnashram, of all the laws of Manu, etc. He's relating all these principles of the universe to Bhishma Dev. And we read in the 9th chapter of the 1st canto how when Bhishma Dev is leaving this world on a bed of arrows, that Krishna and all the Kauravas and Yudhisthira Maharaj and the Pandavas, they all come. And he instructs Yudhisthira at that time. This is why there was no internet, because of the climate, yeah. Yeah. So then Bhishma Dev, he instructs Yudhisthira in all the teachings that his grandfather, Janu, has given to him. And those teachings enter the heart of Maharaj Yudhisthira, who rules his kingdom according to those exalted teachings that he receives from Bhishma Dev. So this is the another aspect of Ganga Devi, that she's responsible for her son, Bhishma Dev, imparting so many remarkable teachings into this world for the lawmakers, for the kings, the Raja Rishis, for them to imbibe. So today we are here at Jhanudvipa, this island, and this is the pastime we hear about Bhishma Dev, because we come to the place first in Jhanudvipa of Bhishma Tila. It's a place where Bhishma came, and he speaks to Janu Rishi. So it's called Bhishma Tila. So that's the first stop in Jhanudvipa. And then we wander through the rest of Jhanudvipa. But Mahaprabhu would come here with his kirtan party and remember this advent of Ganga Devi and her manifesting in this realm. She's in the celestial realm, and then she comes into this world to purify the jivas, the conditioned jivas of this world. So this is the very appropriate pastime that we hear on our Navadvip Parikrama, because Ganga Devi is a central focus of the whole of Navadvip. Everywhere is in relationship to Ganga Devi. The islands are formed by Ganga Devi's movements and so on. So it's very refreshing to hear the pastimes and the glories of. It's described that Ganga Devi manifests from the causal ocean originally. That's her transcendence. She also washes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So she's blessed with so much potency and power to liberate and purify the conditioned souls of all their sinful reactions. It's interesting that Jamuna Devi also has that same benediction, but Jamuna Devi will take all of your pious credits also. If you bathe in Jamuna Devi, she won't just take your sinful reactions, but any pious credits that you've got to your name, she will take those as well. So if you're a businessman, don't go and take a bath in the Jamuna, because you will lose all of your good credits as well as your sinful reactions. But in Ganga Devi, she just takes the sinful reactions and leaves you with your pious credits. So more merciful than we can think, in a way. So this is the pastime of Jhanudvipa and Jhanavi and Gangamata in Jhanudvipa, and Bhishma Dev also. So Jhanudvipa ki jai. So now we come to Modrumdvipa. And in Modrumdvipa is the place where Ram, Sita and Lakshman, they were traveling through this particular part of Goradam. And there's a beautiful banyan tree here in Modrumdvipa. And it's no longer existing, the original one, but we always remember the glories of Sri Ram when we come to Modrumdvipa. Ram is, of course, the Purushottam Maryad, a completely different mood to Krishna and this Prem Purushottam personality of Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu is Benedictine Prem. Ram, he laid the foundation for the society, so to speak, this Maryad. He placed Dharma on the map for Bharatvash in a very beautiful way. But there was a time when Ram is smiling in an interesting way, and Sita Thakurani, she asks, "Oh, my dear Lord, why are you smiling?" And Ram replies, "Oh, I'm remembering my pastimes here, as I will come as Mahaprabhu." And Sita inquires about this avatar, and he explains that he will remain in his household life with Sita Thakurani as Vishnu Priya for only a short while, and then he will take the sannyas ashram and leave household life. So Sita Thakurani is astonished that he will do like that, and she inquires why, and then he explains because he wants to taste that separation mood that his Shakti is going to feel from him in Krishna's pastimes. Sri Radhika, his Swarup Shakti, is going to experience that great mood of separation when Krishna leaves for 100 years. Krishna goes away for 100 years to Dwarka, and Radharani and all the gopis are left in Uddhav Kyari, and for 100 years. So the height of that separation mood is what Mahaprabhu wants to experience and taste by becoming the ashraya of Krishna himself, which is the mood and complexion of Sri Radhika. So he's explaining something of this to Sita Thakurani, and there's a very nice explanation here which I want to read about this particular aspect. And it's saying that Sita Thakurani is inquiring, "Why will you perform such pastimes?" Sri Ram answered, "I will appear in this world as Gauranga, just to teach the living entities prema bhakti." So this is what these whole last 6 or 7 days have been about, really, trying to appreciate and understand the nature of prema bhakti. Mahaprabhu is that Prem Purushottam. He's bringing Prem to this world. So this is a very important place to appreciate, where Ram is explaining the nature of this Prem to Sita Thakurani. He says, Prema Bhakti is tasted in 2 ways, meeting, sambhog, and separation, vipralamba. This is what Ram is explaining to Sita Thakurani. In sambhog ras, the pleasure one receives in meeting is prominent. It's an external pleasure. In vipralamba ras, in the distress of separation, one attains the happiness of constant internal meeting in which everything external is forgotten. The gopis and Sri Radhika, when they were in Uddhav Kyari, they were not thinking about Nandagown at all. They were only thinking about Krishna, completely immersed in him. So there was no external consciousness in the mood, the height of Vipralamba Bhav. In Vipralamba Ras, in the distress of separation, one attains the happiness of constant internal meeting in which everything external is forgotten. Only in separation do one-pointed Rasik devotees attain the unlimited bliss of service. This is the devotees who are serving the Lord will experience this extreme bliss in their seva, in separation. The sadhak, not Radha and Krishna, are going to experience the highest bliss in separation. Otherwise, Radha and Vishaka would always be trying to make Krishna and Radha separated, right? You understand? So it's not in the Leela that separation is the highest. Actually, separation and meeting are both the same degree of bliss. We've explained many times. These Astasatvika bhavs are blazing in both of these conditions, Madanakya Mahabhav and Mohanakya Mahabhav. But for the sadhak is always meditating in a mood of separation. The sadhak in his meditation is meditating in a mood of being separated. That's what gives the enthusiasm and the inspiration to go forward. Without Vipralamba, Sambhog Ras is not nourished. Therefore, in Vipralamba, Ras is 1,000,000 times more relishable than in Sambhog. So, we should appreciate this. I wanted to explain this paragraph because when you're reading it, you might get the idea, well, Vipralamba is more intensely sweet and blissful than Sambhog, but that's for the sadhak who's practicing that. We can post a very beautiful essay that my Gurudev was given on this topic where he's explaining this very clearly. He says, when I appear as Gauranga, Mother Kaushalya, together with Aditi Devi, will appear as Sachi Devi, and you will be my wife, Vishnu Priya. He's speaking, Ram is speaking to Sita Devi. Later in this incarnation as Ram, I will find an excuse to abandon you and send you to the hermitage of Valmiki. Then in separation from you, I will make a golden Sita and worship you. In the same way, in my incarnation as Gaura, you will manifest a deity of me as Gauranga after I renounce my home, and you will worship me in Navadvip. Through the pastimes of Gauranga, I will teach the world the excellence of Vipralamba Ras. Vipralamba Ras takes you completely to an internal focus, an internal place of relish. When you're sitting, when you have appreciated your individual solitary identity and you're sitting alone and you're meditating very deeply, that is when we can connect more significantly with the Lord in that condition, in the separation mood for the sadhak. This is actually all explained in many of my Gurudev's teachings in this Raghvagwan Chandrika and the hidden path of devotion, and Bhajan Rahasya, it's also explained. This truth about Bhav Bhakti is explained when you're internally absorbed entirely, and the whole external connection, that means all our material attachments and desires are completely finished in this world. We're no longer making any dreams for any particular place of activity at all in this world. It's completely gone. We spend so much of our time planning, even as devotees, planning where I will go, what I will do, how I will manage, so many things like that. This is all external. It doesn't really have the focus point on devotion. It's all about me. It's all very selfishly thought about. So this is the pastime we hear in Modrumdvipa, and then it elaborates and we talk about the pastimes in Ram Leela. So this takes place there. Also here is the residence of Vrindavan Das Thakur, who wrote the Chaitanya Bhagavat, is right here at Mamgachi. And here, this is where Narayani, she gives birth to Vrindavan Das Thakur. Narayani was in the household of Srivas Thakur, originally in Kuliagram and in Navadvip. She was there as a child, and eventually she's blessed by Mahaprabhu. In Krishna Leela, this girl, Narayani, she's called Kalimbi. Kalimbi is the sister of Ambika, who's the nurse maid, the wet nurse of Krishna. And Kalimbi is the sister of Ambika in Krishna Leela. So she takes birth as Narayani in Gaura Leela. And we know the pastime where Mahaprabhu, he gives her some Mahaprasad at one point and tells her to chant. And she chants in ecstasy. There's different pastime descriptions, but one pastime description my Gurudev gives is when they were performing the Abhishek. They were collecting so many buckets from the Ganga, and Narayani was doing it so enthusiastically, just a little girl, 5-6 years old, bringing the buckets quickly from the Ganga Devi for the yajna. And Mahaprabhu, he noted this, so he gives her some prasad and tells her to chant Hare Krishna, and she immediately exhibits ecstatic symptoms. She takes that Mahaprasad and immediately exhibits ecstatic symptoms. And later on, she becomes married to one Brahmana, and she conceives the child of Vrindavan Das Thakur. And she comes to this place of Mamgachi or Modrumdvipa to deliver that child. So this is the birthplace of Vrindavan Das Thakur. It's not the residence where Vrindavan Das Thakur spends his life. He spends his life in Denur, which is south of there. It's about 100 miles south from there. It's the ancestral home of his mother, Narayani. There's a beautiful temple there today, Denur, and we can go there and celebrate the life of Vrindavan Das. That's in Denur is where he wrote the Chaitanya Bhagavat. He never got married. He lived with his mother, Narayani, for his whole life. And he gives us he's the last disciple of Nityananda Prabhu. And he was initiated by Nityananda when he was in his late teens. And Nityananda had noted that he's a very good writer. He writes beautiful poetry. So he ordered him, you write about Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Navadvip. Because Vrindavan Das Thakur never has darshan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He never sees him. And he doesn't know so much about the pastimes in Puri. He never goes to Puri. There's no record of him going to Puri. So Vrindavan Das Thakur principally writes the Navadvip Leela pastimes, which are very, very beautiful, very emotionally presented, very sweet. So that Chaitanya Bhagavat, he's gifted to us. We have the Chaitanya Bhagavat and we have the Chaitanya Charitamrita. These two biographies of the Lord's activities and movements. So we celebrate Vrindavan Das Thakur at this place. And also there's Malini Devi's father's house, who is Vasudev Datta. Malini Devi is the wife of Srivas Thakur. And she nurtures Nityananda like it's her own son. Nityananda accepts her as his mother. Even he takes her breast milk when she's an old lady, but he's taking her breast milk. He's seeing her as his mother. He's seeing himself as a complete child. And there's very beautiful pastimes connected with that. And then there's the residence of Sarangadev, Murari. His residence is here. And Sarangadev was a great follower of Mahaprabhu. And once when Saranga Dev and Mahaprabhu were returning from Parikrama, Mahaprabhu asked him, oh, you're getting older now. Why don't you make any shishyas? Why don't you make any disciples? And Sarangadev said, because I don't find anyone qualified enough to be my disciple. That's how he felt. So Mahaprabhu, he says, but you should make them qualified. And then Sarangadev, he says, all right, the first person I see tomorrow, I will make him my disciple. So the next morning he comes to the Ganga to perform his ablutions, and he remembers the promise that he'd made to Mahaprabhu the day before. And when he approaches the Ganga, he sees the dead body of a young boy, and he chants the Diksha mantras into that boy's ear, that dead body's ear, and that boy comes back to life again. That boy's name is Murari, and he is awoken again to consciousness by the potency of Sarangadev, who blesses him and gives him the full Diksha mantras. And then a little bit later, his parents, they found out, this dead child, this Murari's parents find out that he's come back to life again. And they quickly come to the ashram of Sarangadevi and they glorify the child. And they would say, oh, on the day of your Diksha, you were bitten by a snake. And one is not allowed to cremate the body. If you're bitten by a snake, you have to put the body in the Ganga. This is the ruling. So we put your 11-year-old body, he was 11 years old, they put his body in the Ganga, complete like that. But then, by the potency of Sarangadev, he counteracted that poison and brings the boy back to life, who becomes completely dedicated to Sarangadev and refuses point blank at 11 years old to go back with his parents. So he remains with his parents there. And he stays with them. And it's described how they wanted the boy Murari to go home with them. but he would not go. The boy who later became known as Sri Murari Thakur, not Murari Gupta, Murari Thakur, firmly vowed to spend his entire life in the service of Sri Gaurangadev. At Sarangadev's residence, there is a huge bakula tree. Even today, this ancient tree, which is completely hollow inside, just like the Siddha bakula tree, is witness to this event. Witness to the event of this young child coming back to life. So this is Jhanudvipa and Modrumdvipa, these two places which we visit today, and that's the principal places of our parikrama. And we've discussed all of that today. So that's quite a brief overview of our journey today into Vrindavan in Jhanudvipa and Modrumdvipa. So now we've covered all the 9 islands. The other day we went to Rudradvipa on the Ekadashi, and we talked about the 4 Sampradaya Acharyas coming there and meeting Mahaprabhu, and we talked about Jagannath Das Babaji, and we talked about Prodamaya on that day. So that was the day of the Ekadashi. So we've already been to Rudradvipa. So now we've covered Antardvipa in the first day and Simantadvipa. The second day was Godrumdvipa and Madhyadvipa. And then the third day is Koladvipa. And we spent 2 days actually, one Koladvipa one way and Koladvipa the other way. Koladvipa is a big island. And then from Koladvipa we went to Ritudvipa and Jhanudvipa and Modrumdvipa and Rudradvipa. So now we've covered the 9 islands of Goradam. Goradam Parikrama Ki Jai. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. So today, tomorrow is Gaur Purnima, and we have a few minutes left, and I would like just to share what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says about these places, because he has a very deep vision of these places. He's blessed with this. So I'll just read a few verses from here, from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He's saying, here at Janamuni's hermitage, Krishna's devotee named Bhishma learned Bhagavat Dharma relating to Lord Trivikram. Janu himself took to worshipping the Lord in a manner free from duplicity and easily attained the lotus feet of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. This island of Jhanudvipa is non-different from the forest of Bhadravan in Braj. So on the other side of the Jamuna, we have Bhadravan, Bandiravan, Bailvan, 3 Bs, bang, bang, bang. And then we have Lohavan, Madhuvan, 5 forests on that eastern bank of the Jamuna. On this side we have Madhuvan, Talvan, Kamudvan, Bahulavan. We just said Bailvan on the other side. Kadirvan, Kamyavan, and Vrindavan. These are all on this side. So it's really helpful to see the geography. So Bhadravan is the topmost, northernmost forest on the eastern side. And this is Jhanudvipa. When will that spotless divine forest be visible to my eyes? Within that forest is the hill known as Bhishmatila. That's what we described today, Bhishmatila. It's not actually a hill very much, it's just a mound. On top of that hill I shall stay and perform my worship of the Lord. In the evening, Bhishmadev, with a pleased mind, will appear before me in his pure spiritual body, his complexion blackish like Krishna's. Why? Because he receives a body in Vaikuntha. This Salokya, Samipya, Sarupa, Sharsti, these are all forms of the Lord with a blackish body. So this is the destination of Bhishmadev. Remember Bhishmadev in the 9th chapter, it leaves this world on the bed of arrows, and all the rishis around all think, oh, he's achieved moksha, because that was the extent of their understanding. But actually he achieved Vaikuntha. He went beyond, way beyond moksha. A complexion blackish like Krishna's, holding tulsi beads in his hand and marked with 12 tilak marks on his body. He is overflowing with bliss and constantly chanting the Lord's holy name. This is Bhishmadev that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is having darshan of. He will say to me, listen, O newcomer to Navadvip, Today my words are praising the glories of Lord Gauranga. Long ago, during the battle of Kurukshetra, I was struck down and fatally wounded. While dying, I was able to behold the form of the moon-like Sri Krishna Chandra with fixed attention. At the time of my death, Lord Krishna told me, formerly you had darshan of Navadvip, and by that pious activity, you have gained Gauranga's mercy. So if we've had darshan of Navadvip, we've gained Gauranga's mercy. Thus you have now become the eternal resident of Navadvip. Bhishma continues, therefore I also ask you to please give up all other desires, live in Navadvip and worship Gaurahari. You need no longer fear the bondage of material sense objects, for you will definitely attain the service of Gauranga's lotus feet. By the desire of the Lord, the liberated souls can see at all times the pastimes of Krishna and the pastimes of Gaura in this Dham. Here is the complete absence of the conditioned soul's afflictions such as lamentation, fear, death, all causes of disturbance, as well as desires to be inimical to the Lord. All this is vacant in Gauradham. The pure devotees are intoxicated by drinking the wine of servitude to Lord Krishna, and they are all immersed in the ocean of happiness while performing their respective forms of worship. They do not know the pains of the material world, nor do they experience the difficulty of any wants, because everyone is situated in their pure spiritual bodies, possesses only perfect desires. The Supreme Lord has multitudes of servants who are limitless in number. He speaks very beautifully about prayers to the Lord. So this is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's vision as he's wandering through. Hearing these instructions of Bhishma Dev, I will fall down at his feet like a rod and offer obeisances with all my limbs. Giving me his blessings, he will then disappear. Weeping and weeping, I will proceed to the forest on the island of Modrumdvipa. So now we've come out of Jhanudvipa into Modrumdvipa. This island of Modrumdvipa is non-different from the forest of Bandiravan. Bandiravan is the next one down, so Badravan, then Bandiravan is the second forest. All the animals and birds are fully spiritual entities, having the nature of pure goodness. In the branches of the trees sit cuckoos, who incessantly sing the glories of Lord Gauranga, Sita and Ram. Countless banyan trees spread out their shade-giving branches splendorously here in Bandiravan and block out the rays of the sun. When will this wonderfully shady place, where Balaram and Krishna displayed their pastimes to the world, ever be visible to my eyes? So these are very sweet meditations we can remember during our parikrama from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So Jhanudvipa ki jai, Modrumdvipa ki jai, Gauradham ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Radhakund ki jai, Gauradham ki jai, Jhanudvipa ki jai, Modrumdvipa ki jai, Gaur Punim tomorrow ki jai, fasting until sunset ki jai, Go Preman, and then Ekadashi preparations. Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavevcha, Patitanam Pavabhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. So I'm sorry about Facebook. We'll perhaps flip this YouTube copy across sometime.